High Commander Valeth Kedros had seen many battles in her long life. She had watched armies clash on burning worlds. She had ordered fleets to destroy entire civilizations. Her species, the Sithari, were the rulers of 1,000 star systems. They were tall and beautiful in a dangerous way, with scales that shimmered like precious stones and eyes that could see things no other species could see. For 10,000 years, the Sithari had conquered and ruled. They feared nothing and no one. But on this day, in the Arena of Thorns on Nexus Station, Valeth saw something that made her ancient. Heart beat faster. The arena was a place where different species settled their disputes without starting wars. It was neutral ground, controlled by no empire. Representatives from dozens of worlds had gathered in the observation galleries above the fighting pit. They had come to watch a simple matter. A Vrexian assassin had challenged a human diplomat over some insult at a trade meeting. Such challenges happened often. They usually ended quickly. The Vrexian stood in the center of the arena. His name was Krath, and he was famous throughout the galaxy. He stood 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor that was harder than steel. His 4 arms each held a curved blade that had killed over 200 beings. The Vrexians were a species built for murder. They enjoyed it the way other species enjoyed art or music. The human walked into the arena to face him. His name was Marcus Cole, and he was nothing special to look at. He was shorter than Valeth by a full head. His skin was a strange pinkish color. He had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. By all measures of the galaxy, humans were one of the weakest intelligent species. They had only reached the stars 200 years ago. They were considered clever but fragile, like children playing in a game meant for adults. Marcus Cole had refused a weapon. The crowd murmured in confusion. Valeth leaned forward in her seat, her clawed fingers gripping the railing. Beside her, a Tholian merchant laughed softly. "The human has chosen suicide," the merchant said. "How disappointing. I was hoping for entertainment." Valeth said nothing. She watched the human standing alone in the arena, wearing only simple clothes, his hands empty. He was looking at the Vrexian with calm eyes. Not the calm of someone who had accepted death. The calm of someone who was waiting. Krath roared and charged. His 4 blades cut through the air in a pattern designed to kill from every angle. It was a technique that had never failed him. The human could not block. The human could not run. The human would die in pieces on the arena floor. Marcus moved. Valeth had seen fast creatures before. She had fought species that could move faster than the eye could follow. But she had never seen anything like what the human did. He did not try to block the blades. He did not try to run away. Instead, he stepped into the attack, moving between the cutting edges like water flowing around stones. His hand caught one of Krath's wrists and twisted. The motion was small, almost gentle, but suddenly the Vrexian's own momentum was turned against him. He stumbled. Marcus was already moving again. The next 30 seconds were unlike anything the arena had ever seen. Marcus Cole did not fight like a warrior. He had no stance, no technique that any species could name. He simply moved, always in the right place at the right time, always using his enemy's strength against him. When Krath swung, Marcus was not there. When Krath stabbed, Marcus guided the blade into empty air. And each time, he struck back. Small strikes. Precise strikes. Hitting joints and pressure points that should not exist on a Vrexian body, but somehow did. Krath began to slow. His movements became clumsy. One arm hung useless at his side. Then another. He roared in rage and pain, but the sound was weaker now. The human was taking him apart piece by piece, using nothing but his bare hands and his understanding of how bodies worked. The final moment came quickly. Krath lunged in desperation, putting all his remaining strength into one killing blow. Marcus stepped aside. caught the Vrexian's arm, and used his enemy's own weight to throw him to the ground. There was a sound of breaking bones. Krath tried to rise, but his legs would not obey him. Marcus stood over the fallen assassin, breathing hard, his knuckles covered in blood that was not his own. The arena was completely silent. Valeth realized she had stopped breathing. Around her, representatives of a dozen species stared at the scene below with expressions of shock. The Tholian merchant's mouth hung open. Even the arena official seemed frozen in place. A human had defeated a Vrexian assassin. A human with no weapons, no armor, no genetic enhancements. Just flesh and bone and something else. Something that Valeth recognized because her own species had once possessed it, long ago, before they became civilized and conquered their instincts. The will to survive. The refusal to accept death. The ability to adapt to any situation and find a way to win. Valeth felt something stir deep inside her. It was an old feeling, one that her people had spent thousands of years trying to suppress. Among the ancient Sithari, before the Empire, before the rules and traditions, there had been a simple law. The strong claimed the worthy. When you found someone exceptional, someone who proved themselves beyond all doubt, you had the right to take them as your own. The right of claiming had not been invoked in over 1,000 years. Many believed it was just a story from the primitive past. But it was still written in Sithari law, and Valeth was a high commander. She could invoke any law she wished. She stood up slowly. Every eye in the gallery turned to her. She did not notice. She was looking only at the human below, at Marcus Cole, who had done something that should have been impossible. "I invoke the right of claiming," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the silent arena. "The human belongs to me now." The chaos that followed was immediate and loud. The Vrexian representatives screamed for blood payment. The human diplomats demanded explanations. A dozen species began arguing about laws and treaties and rights. Valeth ignored all of it. She walked to the edge of the gallery and looked down at Marcus Cole. He was looking back at her, his strange brown eyes showing no fear, only curiosity and perhaps a little defiance. Yes, she thought. This one is worthy. She had found something rare in the galaxy. Something her people had forgotten existed. A true warrior, hiding in the body of what everyone thought was a weak and fragile species. She intended to keep him. Marcus Cole had expected many things when he woke up that morning. He had expected boring meetings about trade agreements. He had expected bad food from the station's human-friendly restaurants. He had expected to spend another lonely day far from Earth, doing a job that nobody appreciated. He had not expected to kill an alien assassin with his bare hands. He had definitely not expected to be claimed as property by a 7-foot-tall alien commander with scales like diamonds and eyes, like a predator. Yet here he was, standing in an ornate chamber aboard the Sithari warship Ascendant Throne, facing the being who had apparently just purchased him like furniture. The room was beautiful in an alien way. The walls were made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange plants grew in corners, their leaves glowing softly blue. The furniture was designed for someone much taller than Marcus, making him feel like a child in an adult's house. Valeth stood near a large window that showed the stars outside. She had removed her formal armor and wore simpler clothes now, though they still looked expensive and dangerous. She was studying him with those unsettling eyes, and Marcus had the uncomfortable feeling that she could see things about him that he could not see about himself. "You cannot be serious," he said. His voice was steady. He had learned long ago that showing fear to predators only made them hungry. "I'm a diplomatic attaché. I have rights under galactic law. You can't just take me." "The right of claiming is older than galactic law," Valeth replied. Her voice was smooth and deep, like distant thunder. "Within Sithari space, it takes priority over all other treaties. You demonstrated exceptional worth in combat. By our oldest traditions, this gives me the right to claim you. I'm not Sithari. Your traditions don't apply to me. You are in Sithari-controlled space. You killed a Vrexian in a challenge that took place under our observation. The traditions apply. She began to walk around him slowly, looking at him from every angle. Marcus forced himself to stand still. Tell me, Marcus Cole, how does a diplomat learn to fight like that? Marcus was quiet for a moment. The truth was complicated. The truth was personal. But he saw no benefit in lying. On Earth, we have many fighting styles, he said. I studied 2 of them since I was a child. Aikido and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They teach you to use an opponent's strength against them, to redirect force instead of meeting it directly. I never thought I would need them for anything except exercise. Yet you broke an assassin who has killed 200 beings. An assassin with 4 arms, natural armor, and weapons designed for murder. You broke him with your soft human hands. He was going to kill me. I did what I had to do. Valeth stopped in front of him. She was close enough that he could smell her scent, something like rain on hot stone. Her eyes looked into his, and he had the strange feeling that she was reading his soul. You adapted, she said. That is what humans do, yes? You adapt to everything. Extreme heat, extreme cold, toxic air, crushing gravity. Your species treats broken bones as minor problems. You survive things that would kill any other intelligent race. We're stubborn, Marcus admitted. It's our best and worst quality. It is remarkable. Valeth stepped back. The claiming does not make you a slave, Marcus Cole. Among my people, it creates a bond between equals. You would hold rank in my house. You would have authority, resources, protection. You would be my partner, not my property. Marcus laughed bitterly. A partner who can't leave. A partner who didn't choose to be here. If I release you, the Vrexians will demand your death. Your human coalition cannot protect you in this region of space. You killed one of their most famous warriors. They will hunt you across the galaxy until they find you. She paused. I am offering you survival. Is that not valuable? It was a good argument. Marcus hated that it was a good argument. He thought about his options. Return to the human diplomats and hope they could protect him. The Vrexians had influence everywhere. They would bribe, threaten, or kill their way to him eventually. Try to run? Where would he go? He was a diplomat, not a soldier or a spy. He had no resources for that kind of life, or stay here with this alien commander who looked at him like he was something precious and strange. Learn about her people. Learn about her people. Find a place in a society that valued strength, and prove that he had strength worth valuing. What would you expect from me? He asked finally. If I accept this claiming, I would expect you to learn, Valeth said, to understand my people and my position. I am a high commander, one of the most powerful military leaders in the Dominion. I have many enemies. Some of them will see you as a weakness to be exploited. Others will see you as a threat to be eliminated. You will need to be clever to survive, and if I prove myself, if I survive your enemies and learn your ways. Something changed in Valeth's expression. It was subtle, just a small shift in the muscles around her eyes and mouth. But Marcus thought it might be hope. Then perhaps we will find that this claiming benefits us both, she said. Perhaps we will find that humans and Sithari have more in common than either species believed. Marcus thought about it for a long moment. He thought about Earth, about the life he had left behind. He thought about his parents, his friends, his small apartment in Geneva where he used to watch the rainfall on ancient streets. He might never see any of it again, but he also thought about the arena, about the moment when everything had become simple and clear, when there was only the fight and his will to survive. He had felt alive in that moment, more alive than he had felt in years of diplomatic meetings and careful words. "On Earth, we have a saying," he said slowly. "Out of the frying pan, into the fire." It means escaping one dangerous situation only to land in another. I do not understand this cooking metaphor. It means I know I'm trading one set of problems for another. He met her eyes directly. "Fine, I accept. But I'm not going to be some trophy husband who sits around looking pretty. If I'm part of your house, I expect to be useful. I expect to contribute." Valeth's lips curled into something that might have been a smile. It showed her teeth, which were sharper than Marcus had expected. "I would expect nothing less," she said, "from the man who killed a Vrexian with his bare hands." She extended her hand toward him. It was a human gesture, one she must have learned just for this moment. Her fingers were long and tipped with small claws, her scales cool and smooth against his skin. Marcus shook her hand. "Welcome to House Kedros," Valeth said. "Your new life begins now." Standing in that alien room, holding the hand of a being who could probably kill him in a dozen ways before he could blink, Marcus Cole felt something unexpected. He felt curious. Whatever came next, it would certainly not be boring. 3 months passed aboard the Ascendant Throne. Marcus learned many things in those months. He learned that the Sithari Dominion was ancient and powerful, controlling 1,000 star systems with an iron grip. He learned that their society was built on strength and honor, but that strength could mean many things. Physical power was respected, yes, but so was strategic thinking, political skill, and even artistic talent. The Sithari valued excellence in all its forms. He learned that Valeth was not just a commander. She was one of the 3 most powerful military leaders in the entire Dominion. She controlled 1/3 of all Sithari warships. Her word was law on 100 worlds. And she had made many enemies on her rise to power. Most importantly, Marcus learned that he was not just a curiosity anymore. He was a target. Commander Thix was Valeth's greatest rival. He was older than her, more traditional, and deeply offended by her decision to claim a human. In his eyes, Marcus was proof that Valeth had become weak and foolish. He spoke against her in council meetings. He whispered poison in the ears of other commanders. And he sent his warriors to test Marcus whenever he could. The first test came in the dining hall, when a group of Sithari soldiers deliberately blocked Marcus's path and insulted him in their language. Marcus simply walked around them without showing any emotion. He had learned that showing anger was showing weakness. The second test came in the corridors, when someone pushed him from behind while he was climbing stairs. Marcus caught himself before he fell and continued walking without looking back. He noted the face of the warrior who had pushed him. He would remember it later. The third test was different. Marcus was in the training chamber, practicing his movements to stay sharp. The door opened, and 3 Sithari warriors entered. They wore the colors of Commander Thix's house. Their leader was a female named Cirith, known throughout the fleet for her cruelty in battle. "The human wants to play warrior," Cirith said. Her voice dripped with contempt. "We have come to see this famous fighting skill. Show us, little soft creature. Show us what you can do." Marcus knew this was not a friendly request. He could see it in their eyes, in the way they spread out to surround him. They meant to hurt him badly, perhaps even kill him if they could make it look like an accident. Commander Thix would be pleased. Valeth would be shamed. "I don't want trouble," Marcus said calmly. "I'm just here to exercise." "Then you should not have come to Sithari space." Cirith pulled out a neural whip, a weapon that could cause terrible pain without leaving marks. "Your commander is not here to protect you. No one will know what happens in this room." Marcus took a breath. He looked at the 3 warriors surrounding him. They were larger than him, faster than him, armed while he had nothing. By every measure, he should lose this fight. But Marcus had learned something in his time aboard the ship. He had studied the starry body, their strengths and weaknesses. He had watched how they moved, how they fought, and he had learned that they had vulnerabilities that no one talked about. Cirith attacked first, her whip cutting through the air toward his face. Marcus dove forward instead of back, rolling under the strike and coming up inside her guard. Human bones were denser than Sithari bones. Human muscles were built differently, designed for short bursts of explosive power rather than sustained effort. His elbow struck her forearm at the weakest point, where the scales were thinnest on. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the chamber. Cirith screamed and stumbled back. Her companions rushed forward, one drawing a blade, the other throwing a punch. Marcus caught the punch and redirected it, using the warrior's own momentum to throw him into his blade-wielding friend. They crashed together in a tangle of limbs. The one with the blade tried to rise. Marcus was faster. He locked his arm around the warrior's throat from behind, applying pressure to the blood vessels in the neck. It was a technique that worked on almost every species with a brain that needed blood. Within seconds, the warrior went limp. The last one standing looked at his fallen companions with wide eyes. He looked at Marcus, this small, soft human who had just disabled 3 Sithari warriors in less than a minute. He ran. Marcus let him go. He stood in the training chamber, breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly from the rush of combat. He had not wanted this fight, but he had won it, and that was what mattered. The door opened again. Valeth stood there, her expression unreadable. Behind her, medical teams rushed in to collect the groaning warriors. She walked toward Marcus slowly. Her eyes moved over the scene, taking in every detail. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. "You could have killed them." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "But I didn't. Why not?" "They came to hurt you. Perhaps to kill you. You had every right to defend yourself completely." Marcus thought about his answer carefully. This was important. This would show Valeth who he really was. "Dead enemies make martyrs," he said. Other warriors would feel they had to avenge them. But enemies who were defeated easily, quickly, without weapons, that just makes them look weak. It makes Commander Thix look weak for sending them. He met her eyes. "I'm not just fighting for my survival. I'm fighting for your position. Killing them would have made things worse for you." Valeth was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised him. She stepped forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a Sithari gesture of deep respect and affection. He had never seen her do it with anyone. "You understand us," she murmured. "Better than you should. Better than most Sithari understand themselves. I'm a fast learner." He hesitated, then added something he had been afraid to say. "And I have good motivation." She pulled back and looked at him. There was something new in her eyes now. Something soft behind all that predator sharpness. "What motivation?" Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, maybe a little sad. "I think you know." He walked past her toward the door, leaving her standing alone in the training chamber with her wounded enemies. He did not look back, but he knew she was watching him. He could feel her eyes on him like heat on his skin. Something had changed between them. Something important. The claiming had been a political move, a way to protect him and show her power. But now it was becoming something else. Something neither of them had expected. Marcus did not know what to call it yet. He was not sure he wanted to, but for the first time since coming to this strange alien ship, he felt like he might actually belong here. Like this might actually become home. It was a dangerous feeling. Dangerous and wonderful. He decided to embrace it. The war came without warning. Marcus was sleeping when the alarms started screaming. He was out of bed and dressed in seconds, a habit he had developed in his months aboard the Ascendant Throne. By the time he reached the command deck, The room was already full of officers shouting orders and studying holographic displays. Valis stood at the center of it all, her scales glowing faintly with stress hormones, her eyes moving rapidly across dozens of data streams. She did not look at Marcus when he entered, but she spoke to him immediately. The Vrexian Consortium has attacked. They have allied with 3 other hostile powers. Simultaneous strikes on 17 border colonies. Marcus moved to stand beside her, looking at the strategic display. Red icons marked enemy fleets. Blue icons marked Sithari positions. There was far more red than blue. Casualties? He asked. Millions already. Climbing by the minute. Her voice was controlled, but Marcus could hear the strain beneath it. They've been planning this for months. Perhaps years. They waited until our fleets were spread thin across multiple sectors. Marcus studied the display. He had spent the past 3 months learning Sithari military doctrine, reading their history, understanding how they thought about war. And he could see immediately that they were thinking about this war wrong. They're using the same tactics on every front, he said. Massive force concentrated at single points, overwhelming the defenses, then pushing through before reinforcements can arrive. We know what they are doing, Commander Thick snapped from across the room. He had been forced to coordinate with Valith's forces because of the emergency. He clearly hated every moment of it. The question is how to stop them. You can't stop them, Marcus said. Not with direct confrontation. They have superior numbers and momentum. If you try to meet them head-on, you'll lose. Thick's eyes narrowed dangerously. Then what do you suggest, human? Should we simply surrender? No, I suggest you fight smarter. Marcus turned to Valith. On Earth, we had a military doctrine called Blitzkrieg. Lightning War. It's exactly what the Vrexians are doing. Fast, concentrated attacks designed to prevent organized resistance. But it has a critical weakness. Tell me, Valith said. It requires constant momentum. The attacking force has to keep moving forward, keep winning, keep pushing. The moment they slow down, the moment they have to stop and consolidate, they lose their advantage. Their supply lines get stretched. Their troops get tired. Coordination breaks down. Marcus pointed at the display. You don't need to stop them. You need to make them trip. How? Marcus took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest went against everything the Sithari believed about warfare. They valued direct confrontation, displays of superior strength, honorable battle between equals. What he was proposing was none of those things. Guerrilla tactics, he said. Hit and run attacks. Destroy their supply convoys. Poison their fuel sources. Make them fight for every inch of ground. Then abandon that ground and make them fight for the next inch. When they think they've won a position, blow it up. Leave nothing they can use. The command deck went silent. Officers stared at Marcus like he had suggested eating children. You want us to fight like prey, Thick said, his voice filled with disgust. Like cowards. Like animals running from hunters. I want you to win, Marcus replied. My species spent thousands of years fighting each other before we reached the stars. World wars, civil wars, revolutions, genocides. We learned that victory matters more than honor. We learned that the side willing to do ugly things often survives when the honorable side dies. This is madness, another officer said. The Dominion has never fought this way. Our ancestors would be ashamed. Your ancestors are dead, Marcus said bluntly. And if you don't change how you think about this war, you'll be joining them. The silence stretched. Marcus could feel the hostility in the room, the deep cultural resistance to what he was proposing. He understood it. He even respected it. But he also knew that respect for tradition would not stop Vrexian missiles. Malus spoke. Her voice was calm, commanding, absolute. Implement the human strategy. Thix stepped forward. "High Commander, you cannot be serious. This will shame us before the entire galaxy. The galaxy will not care about our shame if we are dead." Valeth looked around the room, meeting every eye. "I have watched this human defeat opponents twice his size with nothing but his hands. I have watched him adapt to our society in ways no other alien ever has. His species survived for thousands of years against predators, against disease, against each other. If anyone understands how to fight when the odds are impossible, it is humanity." She turned back to the display. "We will fight their way, and we will win." The next 3 weeks were the bloodiest in modern Dominion history. Sithari warriors learned to set ambushes instead of charging into battle. They learned to destroy their own colonies rather than let resources fall into enemy hands. They learned to strike convoys and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. They learned to sacrifice pieces of themselves to save the whole dot. It was brutal. It was ugly. It went against everything they had been taught. And it worked. The Vrexian advance began to slow. Their supply lines were bleeding from 1,000 small cuts. Their soldiers grew exhausted chasing ghosts. Their allies, seeing the cost of continued war, started negotiating separate peace treaties. Marcus worked without sleep for days at a time, studying enemy movements, suggesting new targets, coordinating with commanders who had hated him just weeks before. He lost weight. He developed dark circles under his eyes. But he kept going, because stopping meant losing. And losing meant everyone he cared about would die by the end of the 3rd week. The Vrexian consortium was in full retreat. Marcus stood on the command deck, watching the strategic display as red icons fled back toward Vrexian space. Around him, officers who had once looked at him with contempt now looked at him with something like respect. Even Thix gave him a small nod before leaving the room. Valeth came to stand beside him. She looked as tired as he felt, her scales dull from exhaustion, her movements slower than usual. "You saved my people," she said quietly. "We saved them together." Marcus leaned against the display console, too tired to stand properly. "I just gave you the ideas. You warriors did the actual fighting. Ideas are weapons too. Sometimes the most powerful weapons of all." She reached out and took his hand. It was a human gesture, one she had learned from him. "When I claimed you, I believed I was acquiring a warrior. I did not realize I was gaining a strategist, a partner." She paused, and her voice dropped even lower. "A mate." Marcus looked at her. Despite his exhaustion, despite everything they had just been through, he felt his heart beating faster. "Is that what I am now?" "If you choose to be." He thought about it. He thought about Earth, so far away. He thought about his old life, his old dreams, everything he had left behind. Then he thought about Valeth, about how she looked at him like he was worth something, about how she had trusted him with her entire civilization, about how she made him feel like he could do anything, be anything, overcome any obstacle. "I think I made that choice a long time ago," he said. "I just didn't know it yet." She squeezed his hand. They stood together in silence, watching the stars through the viewport as the last remnants of the enemy fled into the darkness. The war was over. Something new was beginning. 1 year after the war ended, Marcus Cole stood before the Dominion Council. The chamber was enormous, carved from a single piece of black stone, lit by floating crystals that cast strange shadows on the ancient walls. Representatives from every major Sithari house sat in tiered seats that rose toward a distant ceiling. They wore their finest armor and their most impressive expressions. They had come to witness history. Marcus wore clothes that had been made specially for this day. They combined human and Sithari styles, dark fabric with subtle scale patterns, fitting close to his body but allowing free movement. Valith had helped him choose them. She said they made him look like he belonged. She stood beside him now, tall and magnificent in ceremonial armor that gleamed like starlight. Her hand rested on his shoulder, a gesture of possession and protection that every Sithari in the room would understand. The Supreme Chancellor rose from her seat at the highest point of the chamber. She was ancient, even by Sithari standards. Her scales faded to pale silver, a movement slow but precise. She had ruled the council for 300 years. Her word was law. "We are gathered to formalize what has already become reality," the Chancellor said. Her voice was soft but carried perfectly through the enormous space. The integration of human military doctrine into Sithari training programs. The first official alliance between the Dominion and the Human Coalition. And the elevation of Marcus Cole to full status as Valith Kedros' bonded mate and co-commander of House Kedros. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. There were those who supported this. There were those who opposed it. Marcus could feel their eyes on him, judging, measuring, wondering if he deserved to stand where he was standing. A year ago, he would have felt small under those eyes. He would have doubted himself, questioned his right to be here, worried about what they thought of him. Now he simply stood straight and met their gazes without flinching. He had earned his place. He had proved himself in combat, in strategy, in loyalty. He had helped save their civilization from destruction. If they could not accept him after all that, then that was their problem, not his. The ceremony was long and complicated. There were ancient words to speak, old rituals to perform, traditions that stretched back thousands of years. Marcus did his best to follow along, guided by Valith's quiet whispers and gentle touches. He stumbled a few times. He mispronounced some words, but he kept going, refusing to let small mistakes defeat him. Finally, it was done. The Supreme Chancellor placed her hands on both their heads and spoke the final blessing. Marcus Cole was no longer a claimed human. He was a high commander of the Sithari Dominion, bonded to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, recognized by law and tradition as an equal among a species that had once considered humanity beneath their notice. The chamber erupted in formal applause. It was polite, measured, appropriate. But here and there, Marcus saw faces that showed genuine warmth. Officers who had served with him during the war. Leaders who had learned from his strategies. People who had come to see him as one of them. Later, alone in their private chambers, Lilith asked him a question. They were sitting by the viewport, watching the stars drift past. The ceremony had been exhausting, and they had both changed into simpler clothes. Marcus leaned against her shoulder, comfortable in a way he had never expected to be comfortable with an alien twice his size. "When you fought the Vrexian in the arena," she said, "what were you thinking?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, remembering. It felt like a lifetime ago. A different person in a different world. "I was thinking that I wasn't going to die," he said finally. "That I had survived too much to end up as some alien's trophy kill. That humans don't give up, even when we probably should. Even when the odds are impossible. Especially then." He smiled, a little sad, a little proud. "We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. It's basically our species' defining trait. We see a mountain, we climb it. We see an ocean, we cross it. We see an alien assassin trying to kill us, we break his arms." Valith made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was strange to hear such a human expression from her. "Your stubbornness nearly killed you, and then it saved your empire. Funny how that works." She pulled him closer, her arms wrapping around him carefully. Even after all this time, she was still learning how fragile humans could be. How easily they broke compared to Sithari. But she was also learning how strong they were in other ways. How they bent without breaking. How they kept fighting when anyone else would have given up. "I am grateful," she said quietly, that I was there to observe your battle, that I recognized what you were. And what am I? She pressed her forehead against his, that gesture of deep intimacy that had become their private language. Worthy, she said, in every way that matters. Marcus kissed her then. It was awkward, as always. Human lips did not quite fit against a thorny mouth. But they had practiced, and they had learned, and somehow it worked. Somehow it was perfect. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their eternal dance. The same stars that humans in Sithari would now navigate together. The same stars that had watched a frightened diplomat become a warrior, become a strategist, become a leader, become a mate. The galaxy had many challenges ahead. There would be more wars to fight, more enemies to face, more alliances to build, and more traditions to change. Marcus knew that his work was not finished. It might never be finished, but for this moment, in this place, none of that mattered. He was home. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. A trade dispute. A challenge he should have refused. A fight he should have lost. A claiming he should have resisted. Every step of the way, logic had told him to give up. To accept defeat. To be sensible and safe. And every step of the way, he had refused. That was what made humans different, he realized. Not their intelligence, though they were clever. Not their technology, though they were inventive. Not their bodies, which were soft and slow compared to most species. It was their refusal to accept limits. Their stubborn belief that anything was possible if they tried hard enough. Their willingness to fail 100 times for the chance to succeed once. Valith had seen that in him, there in the arena. She had seen a species that did not know how to surrender. And she had known, in that moment, that such a species was worth claiming, worth keeping, worth loving. Thank you, Marcus said quietly. For what? For seeing me, for giving me a chance, for believing I could be more than what I appeared to be. Valith's arms tightened around him. Thank you, she replied, for proving that I was right. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars pass by. Two beings from different worlds, different species, different histories. United by respect. United by struggle. United by love. The galaxy was vast and old and full of wonders. But on this night, in this room, the only wonder that mattered was each other, and the stars themselves seemed to approve.